How you guys doing today?
I hope everyone is well. Um, we're back. We're back again. I can't thank Nick enough because I love the background. I've just noticed the background. So as you can see, guys, we've officially made a logo. Um, so that's just to remind everybody what day and time it is. But welcome to tonight's show. I do apologise if you hear laughing from my man in the background. He's watching a film. Um, so tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about. Well, it was supposed to be Ed Gein and Pennywise, but unfortunately, Rosie got a wee bit confuzzled. So we're comparing Pennywise and John Wayne Gacy. So I'll let Nick start. Well, I'll share the show out.
Well, for starters, I mean, in case just before I do, in case anyone wonders where Rosie is, I think she's having some connection issues right now. So hopefully she'll be joining in with us very shortly. She was on just before we went on live, but I think it's some issues she's having with the connection. But either way, we're gonna get started. But just and one other thing too, just want to give a couple of quick shout outs. Hello, Raymond. Good to see you.
Hey
What's going on,
Raymond.
Annette?
Hey Nettie.
Hey, Rita.
Hey Rita, do you know I actually quite feel like we're going to be the you, Dan, and Viv.
I'd never even thought about that, but now that you say that, that's actually.
That that is it. We're definitely going to be the you, Viv, and Dan.
I would not be the least bit surprised, to be honest with you. Robert, hello, no.
Hey Robert. Yeah, Raymond. It was a bit of comparison because I was thinking to myself, how are we going to run that show with Ed Gein and Pennywise?
That's like two sets would be awesome.
Definitely. I've officially adopted Nick as my work husband. We're off to North Carolina because that's where you can make it official.
Oh my god. I still can't get over that rule, by the way, that they have out in North Carolina. That is just crazy.
For for people that don't know, when we went off air on Thursday, me and Nick and Rosie ended up sitting for 2.5 hours talking to each other, including the show, and we were talking about strange laws. So I was telling Nick about in North Carolina, where you can get obviously if you are having an affair, right? So me and Nick are having an affair, right? We're not for real. I'm just using this as prime example. So if me and Nick were having an affair and we went to North Carolina, somewhere in North Carolina, and they asked obviously what's the reservation under, and Nick goes, Mr. and Mrs. Muley. Right, so we're not married. We don't want to be married to each other. We're just having fun, right? So the next thing, what it says in North Carolina basically is that if you go into some place and claim that you're a married couple, that's you officially married. So Nick and me are officially married, apparently. Oh, Nick's like that. Oh my god, I don't want her.
Up and Rosie's back. Here we go.
What are you
Hey
doing with
Rosie.
I have no idea what happened. My camera just stopped working right before you were fixing to start.
what you do with the other one, Lois? I know, tell me about it. Hey, Irene.
Hey
Hey,
Irene, good to see
Annette.
you. Yeah, I'm
So,
just
yes. So, tonight, guys, we're speaking about John Wayne Gacy and Pennywise. I wouldn't say there's that much of a comparison because if you think about what John Wayne Gacy did to Pennywise, well, I suppose in the sense Pennywise didn't go as far as Gacy. But I wonder if that's a sort of this is the wrong term to use, so I do apologise. But like a sort of inspiration to John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, that's why I like it'd be a cool subject.
keep missing at night. What do you mean by that, Eric?
Your other show?
I don't know if he's talking about supernatural talk or I'm not sure what he means by that, to be honest. If you can be a little bit specific, Eric.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Yeah, I
can
can
hear you,
hear you.
love. Can hear
Okay, I
you.
heard an echo,
Fine.
so I thought maybe plugging in the headphones in would fix it.
So I mean, see if you think about it, like Ed Gein is
Mm-hmm.
an inspiration to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Silence of the Lambs,
Mm-hmm.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Psycho. So I'm wondering if maybe, I mean, Pennywise film, would that not have been around the time of Gacy's either?
Well, the times that the murders occurred, I don't know why it sounds like on my end I can hear like it sounds like I'm in a bathroom sitting on a toilet talking. That's what it sounds like.
Listen, if you are brave enough to film for the bathroom,
I have before. I used to all the time, actually, because the bath, like I didn't have all this stuff on the wall, and it had ugly wallpaper, and so the bathroom had a really pretty curtain on it at the time. So nobody knew, and I'm just now coming out about it. I used to sit on the toilet seat, and I used to broadcast. That was back in the day, like a couple years ago, though. So, I don't know what year that movie came out, because when I did go back and look and get the research about the movie, I didn't see the year that came out. I don't know. Maybe Nick
came
might
out in
know.
1990.
Okay, so that movie could have been inspired actually then by the murders. Yes, because those happened in the 80s and the 70s. So the movie, Stephen King could have possibly had some inspiration from John Wayne Gacy. That's what I was wondering. Like, I kind of had this curiosity about that.
It's very possible.
Yeah. But I also found out something else really crazy.
Ooh.
When John Wayne Gacy was in prison, already convicted, he started doing some studying on law himself, like laws and different, like stipulations within the law, I guess probably for Chicago or maybe, for Illinois. And he claimed that he had workers that worked in his construction crew under him, subcontractors that had murdered a lot of the people. Not him, that it wasn't him, it was them.
But that's a serial killer's way of getting out it. Do you know? I was talking to Bib about this last night because we somehow got onto the crime show, and we were talking, and I says, "Oh, know what it was? I was telling her about a story, about a bridge in Scotland where dogs commit suicide. They jump off the right side of the bridge. It's called Overton Bridge, and there was a guy. I think it was in the 90s. He threw his I thought it was a 2-month-old, but it isn't. It's 2-week-old baby over the side of the 42 drop, and it's the exact same side that the bridge actually, the dogs actually jumped from, and he's now sentenced to life. Well, he's been in Carstairs for a number of years. For anybody that doesn't know what Carstairs is a hospital in Scotland that is not open to the public. You only can get detained under the Mental Health Act for criminals. Hiya, Joanne. So we were talking about this bridge and we got onto that subject, and what I was saying last night to Viv is my heart goes out to people. Right, this sounds bad, right? But remember, guys, in the chat, this is just my opinion. But I really feel for the ones that don't have the capacity and don't know generally what they're doing. I can be a wee bit more lenient with, but somebody that knows what they're doing and tries to use the mental card,
like serial killers.
Yeah.
Well, what I was saying that he was blaming on subcontractors, this I actually dug up too. There actually was a guy that worked for him, and he was a member of the Chicago Ripper crew. Have
he
you heard of them?
was.
He was a member of the Chicago Ripper crew. And that was 4 guys that actually worshiped Satan, and they practiced sexual sadism and torture, rape, and cannibalism on many victims from 1981 to 82.
That's horrible. And do you know what? I think today, sorry, my pictures is known, guys. I've kind of got food coming, so I don't want you to be watching me while I eat. But I kind of like when it comes to clowns, right? I know that I don't know if it's as bad as what it was in America back then, but you know, people had this fascination for a while there, dressing up as clowns, and you know, I've seen many one of the door cam videos where clowns are appearing up at people's doors in America dressed as clowns, and it's really freaky. And a lot of people have a phobia of clowns. So I do often wonder if Gacy dressed up as a clown for more of the evil side than the fun side. But when you look at Gacy, he was a really trusted man. Like, people trusted him, he had a good reputation. But then I think, as a narcissist, he must have been knew that he could have the power to manipulate.
He definitely did, because it's like what's even more disturbing about it, and I think we talked about this on the last show that we talked about Gacy Lois, was the fact that not only was he someone that he could be trusted, but he was someone that you could even trust with your kids. He could be like, he could be going out and it's like during the day he could be at a child's birthday party dressed up as this character Pogo the clown and entertain all these kids, and then once he's done and then comes nightfall at night, he's going out to these gay clubs and bars looking for potential victims, and then not only by murdering them but putting them under his crawl space. I mean, it's certainly no wonder why he had the nickname the Killer Clown.
Oh, definitely. Just to answer Eric's question, I've turned my camera off because I've got food. All right, he's
food. That's why she's
husband. My husband's going to put it in the. Oh, wait, no, I said Nick was my husband. my bit in the side's going to put it in the microwave.
Raymond said he's seen
Stephen says I have to sleep outside Nick because I caught him a bit in the side.
Wait,
where's the costume displayed at?
This is interesting.
Yeah.
God, I'll get after.
I honestly didn't think any of his costumes still even existed. I thought they would have at least been destroyed.
Maybe they're in a museum.
I think, like a lot of people, like I suppose, like on their own rights, have like stuff from killers, and it's just kind of like.
What if it's actually like a clown museum or something, though? I don't know.
Nah.
He also had Patches the Clown. I forgot he had another character, clown character that he used. It wasn't as popular as I think so. I mean, I don't think it was as popular as Pogo was, but I think he had more than one costume. So now that I can't really remember too many stories involving that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to know where this costume is. I just want to see it.
Yeah, I'm really curious where this costume is. It an actual costume by him, or is it just a replica? Now, Eric had another question. I think this is for more of you, Lois. Wasn't there a bridge? Wasn't there a bridge in Scotland or England that a lot of people committed suicide on?
I've never heard of that one, Eric, but in my experience in Scotland, it's a bridge that dogs, like
hundreds of dogs, right? Hundreds.
Yeah, I remember that bridge.
Right. And what Viv was saying actually last night was that there's apparently there's reported a smell that the dogs can't stand, and they go absolutely mental. That drives them to wanting to kill themselves.
It's yeah, I know what bridge that is. I can't remember. But they also say too, it only happens to specific breeds of dogs. It doesn't happen to every. Like I think they say it's the ones with the longer snouts that I think are
Uh,
Or
effective. The
some kind of
shorter ones,
collie or is it a collie?
I'm not
um,
entirely sure. I just heard. I think it was the
I'm
longer
not sure.
snout dogs that are affected and commit suicide, but the shorter snout ones, they're never affected by it.
Uh-huh. But I mean, when you look at obviously like people be more wary now. I don't know if they are wary over in America about um hiring clowns. Obviously, it must have put a lot of people off in America having clowns at parties.
Oh wait, here, Raymond just put it up. Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. They're the actual costumes.
Oh my
Wow.
That's
god.
awesome.
Oh wow.
See, Joanne was first saying probably Zach's museum, which
Yes.
I don't believe that, but okay, now that he has said that, okay,
Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Pigeon Forge. That's not even far from me.
Right,
I'm
guys,
gonna
let me
write that
fire
down.
you a question. As paranormal investigators, would you know, like, seriously, use EVP? I would love to sit with something like that for cases, like me to see
Me too.
oh
what,
yeah,
what it would what the residue would be.
just the energy that you would feel from even though like at any museum you can't touch anything, but even just standing nearby it,
Yeah.
feeling the action. I mean, yes, he didn't commit murders while wearing that costume, but knowing that it was worn on the very same torso of someone who committed almost like 30 murders on young men and boys, it's got to be an unsettling feeling.
I didn't know they're actually selling paintings of John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah,
Wait
he
till you
was a good
listen to
painter
this.
too.
They're actually selling a painting of John Wayne Gacy. And you know how much for?
Oh
How
boy, what
much?
is it?
$2,500.
Wow. I was expecting
Wow.
higher than that, to be honest with you.
Apparently, it's a website called serialkillersinc.net.
Jeez. Well, I'm not surprised that some of his paintings are still around because I mean, when he was in prison for the murders that he committed, he was up until his execution, he did a lot of art. He was a very
Yep.
good artist. However, a lot of people, especially the families of the victims, protested against him selling these paintings because it's like they were trying to send that message to everybody saying, you know who you're getting this from? This is the same guy who may have made this beautiful painting with these great hands that he has. Those hands that he used to make this painting are the same hands that killed our son or our brother
Yeah.
Yep.
or family
Exactly.
or our friend, whatever.
Exactly. And it says that he acquired a box of paints and he used these paints to produce over 2,000 canvases.
That's crazy.
Um, during his whole time he'd been there, before obviously he was executed in May 1994. Most of these pieces found buyers despite their provenance, quality, and subject matter. A few months before his execution, the art gallery in Beverly Hills, CA, offered up 3 dozens of his paintings for sale. Many of these canvases dictated human skulls, others were self-portraits of the serial killer dressed as Pogo the Clown, a persona that Gacy adopted when he worked at a children's party, where he allegedly met some of his victims. And I mean, how does these victims, well, obviously the victims that he killed, but how must their family feel? They must carry some guilt, and it's not their fault because you can only take somebody at face value. As I was talking about a certain subject the other day, we'll not go into it, but Rosie will get the reference. But what Rosie, me and Jacqueline were doing one night for the Ted Bundy
Mm-hmm.
anniversary episode, and a long story short, things weren't right and things were discovered. But you just take somebody at face value. How many people do we take on a show and we don't do background checks.
Yeah.
You take this person at face value, and if they look dead genuine, you just say to yourself, "Oh, just come on," you know. And do you know what? Probably the victims' families thought, well, the ones that obviously how we met some of these victims, you know,
Yeah.
probably thought, "Oh, he's such a nice guy. Let's hire him." You know, people don't
Yeah. Well, some
do.
people are so convincing and they're like silver deviled tongues. I mean, silver tongued devils, excuse me. They're just so good at what they say, like, and what they're selling that you can't help but buy it.
Totally. And I mean, one of his
Pickle Tom.
paintings,
What's up, Tom?
the
Sorry.
most. No, you're fine, honey.
Mm.
Hi, Tom.
I always call
Um,
him Pickle Tom, so that's why he's called me Pickle Nick.
I mean, one of the most expensive pieces was one of the pogo as an open mouth clown, but open mouth clown with fangs for $20,000.
Jeez.
But
Wow.
Illinois sued Gacy in October of 1993 to prevent him from profiting from the sales of his artworks, but an auction of them was held in May of 1994, soon after his actual execution. Six paintings were actually put on the block and successfully bid upon by two businessmen. The subject of this lot of paintings including Elvis, several clowns, skull pierced by bloody daggers, and a prisoner escaping from a jail cell after using a pickaxe to cut a hole in the cell wall. In 2011, the Arts Factory Gallery in Las Vegas launched a expedition titled "Multiples: The Artwork of John Wayne Gacy." The prices ranged from $2,000 to $12,000 a piece alone, just for that, and that must be a kick right in their shins, the families and the victims.
You
Yeah.
know, it's just I mean, I don't blame the victim, like the family, the victim, the family's the victim's family, excuse me, about how they felt like when it came across all these paintings and all this stuff that John Wayne Gacy basically left behind. It's just crazy. I mean, I know for a fact, even though he made a whole bunch of these paintings, I know a good majority of them have since been completely destroyed because they didn't want any of this sold to get, the to museums or anything whatsoever. But
Mm-hmm.
it's even more tougher when um, people want to take advantage of it in other ways. Like it's like they worship like these individuals like they're heroes. Or I can give a perfect example about it. I don't know if you guys remember. This was now almost 10 years ago when the I think it was the fifth season of American Horror Story. It was the hotel season, and there
Mm-hmm.
was an episode where they had this Halloween episode where they would have all these different serial killers come together, and one of them, which was the same guy who played I already forgot what his name was, the guy who played Twisty in the previous season, who is, you can clearly tell, is based off of Pogo the Clown. Here he is now portraying Gacy, and they're making this like it's like they're doing this obviously for a Halloween special. Okay, it may sound entertaining, but when I watched that episode, I'm thinking I couldn't help but thinking, what would the victims' families be thinking right now watching this? Because it's still, even over 30, 40 years later, it's still just a way too soon moment to do something like that. It's like they're taking these guys that committed these brutal crimes and turning into something for a Halloween episode. In this case, including one of them was John Wayne Gacy.
Publicity, maybe for ratings.
Yeah. And something tells me they probably never got any permission or blessing or whatsoever from the victims' families. Like at least saying, hey, we're doing this. We don't want to offend you. Do you mind if we do it? I'm betting they probably never even asked anybody.
That is the problem, you know. I suppose if we flip it and we look like realistically at movies that do make, and it is kind of the worst word to use, it kind of is inspiration because it's not described any other way. I mean, when you look at obviously going back to Gein, I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, I think the whole franchise are only like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the films, and that's the original, the 2003, the beginning, and the one that they made in 2022, which looked quite pish at the beginning, but I actually liked watching. So, and that came from Ed Gein, the story of Ed Gein, and I suppose when you weigh up the both when we talk about paintings and films, in a kind of way they're connected because they're not really thinking about victims like families and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know it's just films are just ideas, but I think when they're hitting on serial killers and then it's becoming popular. I mean, look at the stuff with Jeffrey Dahmer when they turned round, you know, and they made that documentary. Suddenly, everybody at Halloween was wanting to dress up like Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's
I
like,
know
And so many memes and gifs and all kinds
very
of stuff was
controversial.
created.
You know, it's just like when you think about it, it's like, I mean, yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example, was based off of that game, but it wasn't specifically focused on really just him for entertainment because Toby Hooper, the director of the film, before he passed away, said that there were other ideas of what made him want to make this movie. So it wasn't just an idea. He just took a part of that, but not solely basing off of it. So what I'm saying is that it's one thing if you're making a film that is partially based off of a real event, or if you're making a dramatization film, like the true story of what happened. It's one thing to make one of those type of films. It's another thing, however, though, when you're taking that same serial killer, a real serial killer, and like I said, as what Raymond just said, yes, the episode of American Horror Story Hotel. It's another thing when you're just taking one of these real killers and basically making it for Halloween, like it's just an awesome thing to show when
they're glamorizing what they did.
Glamorizing because it wasn't just John Wayne.
I like documentaries more because they don't so much do that. Documentaries, docuseries,
Hey Kelly, I just want to say hey Kelly.
I like what she said.
I don't remember Kelly Drews. She must be new, so welcome, Kelly.
Welcome to the show. The thing, and if Pennywise was truly based on John Wayne Gacy, then that just shows that Tim Curry's Pennywise did it better. Just my opinion, but I'm always partial to Tim Lyle.
Eric said he's seen that episode, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I didn't watch a lot of American Horror Story, but I like what Kelly said.
It's so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, right, I must admit, I have recently thought about death row. Maybe, like, working with them and getting inside their head that kind of way, right? So it'll help me with obviously, what I want to do. And there's in fact, this is a suggestion for everybody, right? On Netflix, I don't know if it'll be on American Netflix, but it's definitely on the British Netflix. It's documentary about all these people that are on death row.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good, interesting, an interesting program, and you just think, going back to death row, it's just like you don't know how long you're going to be there. I mean, there was one guy, I think he's been waiting for death row since 25 years.
It takes a while for an execution to be scheduled. They may have something scheduled, first thing, like once they sentence you, but then they got to push it back, and it gets to a point where they just cannot make a decision. But I've always said, if you're on death row and they keep pushing it back, it sounds more like almost like a life without parole. Because let's be honest, even if you're on death row, that's going to show that you're never getting out of prison. You're just not. So, Although, of course, and I remember we talked about this previously. However, there's like really just one state out of all the other states that will make sure that you're executed quickly. And Rosie, I remember we talked about this too, and that's undoubtedly the state of Texas. Like
Yeah.
in other states around the country, and even other countries that still have the death penalty, it could be months, years, even decades before you're executed. But if you committed a crime and if you're sentenced to death in Texas, you're you're going to die real soon.
I wonder also if it's even worse if you're an outsider, like from out of Texas.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
But like their motto is like, "Don't mess with Texas." Like
yeah, they there's and to this day there had only ever been one time where the death penalty was abolished in Texas, but it only lasted for like 15 years. But since then, they've reinstated it, and now it's back in full force. So it's been in full force ever since.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love that film, Silence of the Lambs, but also love the spin-offs. See Red Dragon and Hannibal.
Yeah,
they're good films.
I just think Anthony Hopkins is just an awesome actor. Like
he's fantastic. And by the way, I got to tell you guys this because my Don had recently revealed this to me, and I'm saying this from a personal perspective. Do you guys know that Anthony Hopkins, he actually has autism?
Oh, does
I actually think I saw him on a list.
Oh, really?
Of that, yeah.
Yeah, he is on the autism spectrum, like I am.
Oh my God, I didn't.
Yeah, one of the guys from Jared Roberts. You know Jared Roberts? You know Jared Roberts? He's from the UK.
Yeah, I think I know who that is.
He told me that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I forgot though.
I didn't know that until recently either.
Every day's a school day. I like Raymond's comment. Gein and Pennywise, two monsters that disguise themselves as clown to get to kids.
Very right.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the comparison that I found is that they both use tricks. They use trickery. They use manipulation. They lured people with costumes and with like a fake, like welcoming, fun, like family friendly, kid friendly, targeted type of tactic. They use like balloons and like kid stuff that kids are going to be completely like drawn to, and they're going to be tricked by, and they're going to be mesmerized with, to get them to actually to lead them to their death, basically.
The only difference with the two is obviously, I mean, yes, Pennywise is more
Pennywise wasn't human.
I was going to say Pennywise was
actually
a supernatural paranormal entity. John Wayne Gacy was a full blood human who killed for his own sick pleasure.
Yeah.
Now here, Kelly just wrote this down. There was a mother who was on death row who killed her children. She's always said that she did not do it. And with new technology, they may have found the kids died from a genetic disorder. They thought they had hard proof. Just goes to show nothing is always what it seems. That's why shows like this is good communication.
Yeah.
Just can't think
Thanks very much, Kelly. I take that as a
It's also why when someone goes on to death row that they give them a little while, because that has happened more times than you probably know, that someone's sentenced to death row and they find out, and I'm not saying she's innocent. I don't know what she's talking about exactly. I'd have to look it up and actually research on it and, cross-reference it. But like, I know that I've read about several different cases of people being on death row, and before they got executed, they were found innocent.
But see, the problem is, right, as much as I agree with the death penalty, and I do agree with the death penalty, but this is what you've got to watch, because you could be putting up someone who could be totally innocent, is found guilty, gets the death penalty, they get the death penalty, they die. Shouldn't that be classed as murder as well?
I think it's also, it might have been circumstantial, because was there not any way to like have any other suspect other than that mom, that it was so easy to convict her that she did it because there was no witness, there was no other plausible, like reasonable cause that someone else did it, or like reason to think that anyone else was a suspect? Like, what was the situation to where they just
convicted her? If someone is vulnerable and they're not in the right state of mind, then the police like to manipulate. Now, this is just my opinion. Police like to manipulate. Doesn't matter whether it's Britain, America, Spain, or whatever.
Yeah.
They like to manipulate, and they will put words into someone's mouth. And if somebody's really that mentally ill and really, you know, not in a great frame, they'll make that person say, they can mind manipulate that person into a confession.
Yeah, there's actually a case that I found. I'm actually, if we have a few minutes just before we get off, I have a primary example of something like that, where they were forcing someone to confess to a crime that, I mean, still to this day, we don't know exactly for sure if he committed this murder or not, but it was a primary example of forcing him to confess. So that's been happening for decades. It still happens to this day, but it's been going on for who knows how long.
Well, look at the video that's swirling about on YouTube and TikTok just now about the gentleman officer over in America. They've arrested a black guy. I'm not saying this to cause controversy, but there was somebody that filmed this guy getting arrested and actually seen one of the officers plant drugs.
Oh, one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously they've seen the person filming and they started to chase the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
But the video must have gotten out before they got to the cameraman.
Hey,
Right.
Jeremy. But yeah,
Oh, hey, Jeremy, good to see you.
yeah, definitely. But the problem is, right, I'm going back to Ed Gein because I'm fascinated with Ed Gein, right? No fascinated, say, I've got to watch my wording because sometimes people take when you say fascination or what's your your favourite serial killer, they
Yeah.
always go batshit crazy. So I'm fascinated in Gein because Gein was genuinely mentally ill. And
Yeah, he was.
and I think to myself sometimes, did the police manipulate him and make things sound bigger than
Right.
what it was? But then I look at the evidence and I look at obviously the documentaries what I've watched about Ed Gein, and I think to myself, what sort of mind did Gein have to skin people and make furniture out
And wear their faces
that
and
that's
collect and make like
just
necklaces of ears and noses
Yeah,
and
he
stuff.
would have like all this. Despite his title, he wasn't necessarily considered a serial killer. He was more of an actual grave robber because it was said that he only had murdered probably only two people, which the rule is if you murder more than if you murder three or more people, then you're considered a serial killer because he was only confirmed and proved to have killed only two. He's not considered a serial killer. So as a result, other than the two victims, most of all these different body parts that he hung around his farmhouse for decoration and furniture and whatever the case is.
So he was more almost like a necromancer.
Yeah, it was a necromancer. They suppose he never did. There were beliefs that he was also. I was going to say they also said that he supposedly practiced cannibalism, though Ed Gein never admitted that he ever actually ate any of these body parts.
Well, look at Charles Manson, right?
Yeah.
Right or wrong, he's not a serial killer, but people put him down as a serial killer.
Right.
But that was mind manipulation. The only thing he's ever done is one murder, and he raped a woman.
I'd call him a master cult leader. That's what I'd call him.
Well, he was a bastard. Obviously, he's got a love child that's came out recently. Obviously, that for the purposes they've kept the identity, but there's definitely a love child involved. But people would consider him a serial killer. But seeing in essence, when you actually sit down and process what he's done. He's not a serial killer.
Right.
He's only used manipulation to people to get them to carry out his dirty work.
Even though he wasn't the one who actually like killed victims, either way, he still in some way was pulling the strings, but still did not have that term as a serial killer. But he was still the mastermind behind it.
Like a criminal mastermind / a cult leader.
Now, Robert just made a good comment here. The world's most dangerous serial killer has not been born yet. I couldn't agree with more on that.
That's true. But then we look at the serial killers going back. How many?
How do we not know that the worst serial killer could have already gotten away with everything scot-free and nobody knows about it?
Exactly.
See, I've always kind of put it in a way. I mean, and this is actually something that this actually sounds more like something involving talking about like extraterrestrials, but unfortunately, as much as we hate to admit, I mean, yes, there's a lot of good people like us, but unfortunately, the reality of it is that we're basically considered, probably the most destructive species in perhaps the entire universe. From the time that man had first been born, it's like there's always been killing of each other, and I'm not just only saying that in an animalistic way. It's just not necessarily that we were born to do that. I'm not saying that at all. It's just from the very start, it's like you always hear that term that no one's perfect. I think from the very beginning, we were basically brought here not to be perfect in the beginning. And something like this would eventually happen over time. So I think unlike any other race or species out there in the universe, I don't think there's anyone more hostile than we are. We're just a very destructive species. And who knows? We all could be the world's most dangerous serial killer.
Here, Nicholas has just hit on a very, very good point. I was having this conversation the other day, and someone asked, I mentioned that I think last night's show, so for everybody that never seen last night's show, I'll talk about it again. I'm on witchy groups, right? I love witchy stuff, right? So I'm in a witchy group. And someone asked a really, really good question. And it was about our opinion of, did we see the devil, Satan, and Lucifer being bad people? And my answer was this. Now, bear in mind, I've went to a Catholic school. But my opinion was this. People that obviously, I don't think they were evil, right? Satanism teaches you to follow your own path, be your own person, be who you want to be. The Bible, now, this is where I'm going to get the, right? The Bible creates how somebody should live ideally, right? When you look at the commandments, the 10 commandments, I can't remember them all, right? Because
I can't remember them all either, so I'm with you on that.
Well, which Bible are you talking about? Which version of the Bible?
Oh, hey, Chanel.
The old,
hey,
Chanel.
Because there's a lot of versions of the Bible.
It's the Old Testament when it all began. So, I'm sure there's one on there that says, "Thou shall not kill." I think there is, or harm, right? Regardless, right? But I think the Bible has made these out to be a lot worse as a scaremongering tact, as a, if you do this, you're going to hell. And I think a lot of killings, how King James's Bible, I love Robert. The fact that religion is the most evilest thing in the world because people use it as an excuse to get out and hurt others.
Yeah, that can be every religion, though, because even in other countries, they teach people to do suicide missions and kill themselves to kill other people just to create fear.
And for someone like myself, I am, obviously I'm one of those people like, who is religious. Like I go to church,
I'm
whenever
Sorry,
too.
Nick.
I am too. I actually am very religious,
what I
but
was,
that's why I said which Bible.
yeah, yeah. But no, what
And
I
which
was gonna say
church,
was is that as someone who does go to church and stuff like that, I mean, yes, there are positive parts about when it comes to religion and certain things, but you also sometimes have to remind yourself that there's also when you basically when you see a religion that has them that much beauty and peace to it, even if you're a real religious person to begin with, unfortunately, there's always a dark side to it. I mean, most people don't look at are always on the lighter side of it, but again, there's always going to be some of those individuals
and that
out there.
comes from a living man.
Yeah, it's like some of those
Manipulating
individuals,
and
including a
justifying
group.
their own actions,
So
and they
so that
change
means
religion to
Right.
fit their
that
narrative.
means tonight,
Yeah.
folks, I'm going to be sleeping outside, so Nick's going to block me for my nonsense. I'll not be at his dinner table for Valentine's Day. That's what he's telling me.
Well, I've been to a lot of different churches, and I would agree with what you said at some of the churches and the church families that I had been a part of when I was younger and I didn't know any better. But now the church that I'm a part of is not like that. They even allow and perform same-sex marriages at the church that I'm a part of now.
Oh, that's
I never thought I would
really
ever actually be a part of a church like that, because I had always been in churches that said, if you're gay, you're going to hell. If you like a man and
that
you're a man, you're
continued on
going to
until
hell.
2013.
And I was just like, I can't be a part of those. That's just sad, and it's frightening, and it's scary, and it causes anxiety, and it's just. But that's why I was asking which Bible you were talking about, because there are some religions like that. But not all
I'm
of
going
them.
to sway. I'm going to sway right off this subject because this usually becomes one of the topics.
Well,
where
it's not
everybody
bad to educate people about
nuts.
different religions. Because did y'all know that Episcopalians perform same-sex marriages and they allow that in their church?
I didn't know that.
So, see, somebody might have learned something.
Exactly. But best, just to touch on this last minute, right? There's a good documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen it, called Religiousness. It's built by a guy called Bill Maher. I don't even know how to pronounce his thing, but he goes around and challenges, and it's actually pretty interesting.
Where is he from?
What in North
Well, I was gonna say, while you're looking that up, I'm just gonna go over to some of the comments because there was quite a lot of them that were showing up. Kelly was saying earlier, I think Kim Kardashian representing these people. I think it was what she was saying earlier.
Yeah,
sure, like a documentary, and she's playing that.
Stories reminds Eric of Green Mile.
Something we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it was something. And then Kelly also, geez, wow, Kelly's really got a lot to say to us. With the officer that killed the guy by that was the George Floyd case. Now he's appealing. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what else. American Hair start out as grave robbers.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Kelly also said there are people who are killing millions of people today, and they are still getting away with go figure. Have been doing that since their 20s.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry, Kelly. Listen, we love the interaction coming. If you want to spam it,
I didn't see this.
Aye, that's what I just seen there. Right, if you want to come and you want to speak and you want to spam that chat, please do, because if we didn't get spams in the chat and nobody came and spoke to us, that would be a disappointing show.
Yeah, don't be, Kelly. We definitely appreciate you commenting.
Definitely.
Let's see what else.
Someone said Pentecostal does same-sex marriage now too. I'm extremely like, my jaw is like.
Really?
Because I used to be a part of Pentecostal church, and they were the strictest of the strict.
Wow. Church in Scotland is one generation away from extinction.
Aye, I can understand that.
It's sad. Hopefully it's not.
There's a group doing studies finding out demons are not really demons, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying there is an evil in the world.
This is very true.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that, as Nick says, the human race is the most nastiest, evilest raised in.
I think we're the most fragile, and that's why.
Mhm.
I mean, I've always seen, like, if you look at there was actually one time, this is more on based on another movie. If you look at a movie like Saw, for example, I mean, it's not based on a true story, at least as far as we know that is.
Mm-hmm.
But the producer of that film, Lee Wannell, had been so awe-inspired from what the purpose of, like, all those torture instruments and games that he used. So he said at one point that one day he just went on Google and typed in, Spanish Inquisition torture devices, and the stuff that comes up, I mean, I'm telling you guys, we hadn't even touched of what humans have done to themselves for centuries.
Or each other.
Or each other. Yeah.
I must admit, right, the Saw movies come up with pretty good ideas, right?
Yeah.
That's like a serial killer's guide to how to do it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That is. See, the Saw, I love some of the Saws. I like the first one, I like the second one, I like the one with the doctor that's trying to save him, and I liked Jigsaw. And they're actually bringing out another show again
Yes, they
this
are.
year at some point, and I think when you do one film, see if it makes sense. I mean,
Overkill is what you're saying.
It's just see when it goes on and on and on and on, it kind of loses its fun.
And they had Spiral last year.
Yeah, they had Spiral. Resaw. No, that was 2 years ago now, but yeah, I saw Spiral. But it's just amazing to see how a series like that has still gone on. And you know what's even, and I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything. My brother, who's like a big fan of the Saw movies, he's become like a mastermind or knowledgeable guy on each of these torture devices that are used in each film. Like he describes, how it's used, what do you, that kind of thing. And I'm not necessarily like bothered or disturbed by him. I'm kind of glad that he has this knowledge because I haven't seen all the Saw movies, but it's not him that bothers me. How do we not know that there's someone else that has that same knowledge but wants to like take it to that level of wanting to recreate some of those real goals?
I've got a solution for you, Nick. Come to Scotland and I'll hide you here. Nothing will ever happen to you.
Oh man.
Next like that, I want off now. If she's not offending me, she's coming on to me. I love this show. I love having the banter with you guys. It's really refreshing on a Thursday and a Friday night. I love Kelly. She asks some good questions and posts some good stuff. Any friend of yours is very welcome in here, and Kelly sounds lovely.
Yeah.
It's only your first time watching this, and I'm liking Kelly already, commenting a lot. So it's seriously nice to have chatting, Kelly. Really, it is.
There's no such a thing as the fear of God anymore. No, there isn't, Robert. People are just, but I suppose it doesn't help.
If Hitler had won the war, what religion would we be?
I'd still be Jewish.
Yeah, but many of the famous movies did it to where it was over. Yeah, see, I've only seen, honestly, when it comes to the Saw movies, I've only seen the first 3 and the Spiral film. So, I mean, and honestly, I know a lot of people have different opinions on the Saw movies. I think the first 3 were probably the best because the other thing too was they killed Jigsaw off too early in the series. Like if they were going to make more movies, at least have them, appear more. I mean, yes, he makes appearances throughout the other movies, but not as a main character. I think they killed him off too early.
I've got to say, right, that's the same as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? I've only seen the first. I refuse to watch the middle ones. I'd seen the 2003 remake, which was brilliant. The beginning was brilliant, and the one they bring out in 2022 was brilliant. The problem with In the Middle is they look so cheesy. It's unreal. It just, I can't, I'm just like, so cheesy. It's no, Like the 1979 one.
The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, Hills of
I
Eyes.
refuse to watch
Yeah.
that film. I've seen it.
Tales from the Crypt is awesome.
Yes, it
I've seen
is.
it. I've seen obviously the Hill Have Eyes, and it's one fucked up film.
You talking about the original one from the 70s or the remake?
I'm no sure, Nick. I think must have been. Wait a minute.
There was the one that Wes Craven directed back in 1977, and the other one was a remake, which I think he actually had some work in it, and that was back in 2006.
Maybe it was a 2006. No, it wasn't. You're right, Nick. It was a 1970s one.
I actually have a copy of that film, in fact. But the thing about Hills of Eyes, which I'll just bring up, is that there is actually some truth to that film. It is based off of two cases. One of a
Seriously?
real family that committed cannibalism, and secondly, people don't seem to know this, but it's actually even based on a cryptozoology. Well, not creature, but group of creatures, which are called
Really?
yeah, there is. It's actually there's a group of creatures out there, and it's a funny name, but the story itself is terrifying. They're known as the melon heads.
Oh my god, I need to look at. Oh,
I've never heard of that.
No, I'm so sorry, honey.
Wait, what? Are you saying that for who are you saying that for? Or?
Chanel, I feel God.
Yes, Chanel. I hope you. I'm okay. Yeah, Chanel. I've been praying for you. I really hope you get through it. I know all too well. She's not been doing the best.
Sorry, my man's not laughing at you. He's laughing at the film.
Yeah.
I do apologise, folks.
I wasn't laughing. I was smiling because of what she said.
Yeah.
Because if I was dying of cancer, I would be praying to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what else. Have you seen? No, I haven't, Chanel. I actually been meaning to see that. As a huge Alice Cooper fan, I've been wanting to see that movie.
Too. That would just be so intriguing. The Children is what it's called.
Have you guys? I don't know if you guys have ever watched it. Do you know what film I'm fascinated with too? And this goes off the topic. It's 28 Days Later. I love
I love that movie.
They're bringing out a 28. Is it 28 months later?
28 weeks later, they made a sequel for it, and now for the last almost a decade now, they've been trying to make a third one, which I think they want to call that one 28 months later or 28 years later.
I can't wait to see it. I love these films. Do you know what? I never used to be a zombie, like a sort of. Now this has turned into a film chat. We might as well just run with it all. But I was never into zombie movies.
Yeah.
I was never. No.
I always love zombies. I've just always been like obsessed with them.
So am I.
Best one of the fearless vampire killers.
The Fearless Vampire Killers must be the name of it.
Do you know the funniest thing I've ever watched was I don't know if you guys have ever seen it in US. It's called a program called the IT Crowd. You should do 126.
Well, don't forget, we need a 28 minutes later too.
They should make that like a comedic parody, like a comic.
28 hours later.
Parody. It's 20 seconds later.
Guys, I'll be back in a sec. My laptop is just about to die. I forgot to get the cord.
I just went and grabbed mine before we started.
There's Nick running.
I was going to ask on the page that you made for this if you can make everything shareable, because it doesn't say you can share anything. So I can't go to our page for this, and people can't go to this page, To the Grave and Back. It just says at the bottom of it.
The group?
Yeah, you can't share this off of that page unless you copy the link and you paste it somewhere.
I need to have a look at that. That means I would need to open the group publicly, I think.
Yeah, it says send it. You can send it into a messenger group to send through messenger, but you can't actually send it to a page. So like I would share it to group pages and stuff myself because I have a lot of group pages.
No, that's fine. Best bet is to actually, this is running off Things Network. So go into Things Network and then share it for there. Because I've put it on
And it's on Simply Spooky too.
It's
Yep,
on Simply Spooky
I
as
put it
well.
on Simply Spooky. So
I'm glad that you love it, Kelly. Please feel free to join in. I mean, always. Do you know what? This is what I was saying last night to Viv. I absolutely love the support, and the you guys in the comments make it worthwhile. Without yous, we wouldn't have a
Yeah.
show.
yeah.
Realistically,
And Kelly, if
um,
you, oh, sorry, Lois, God, I'm
go on,
sorry.
you go, honey.
No, I was just going to say for Kelly, if you like, I could reach out to you afterwards and send you the links to these networks, Things Network and Simply Spooky Network, because we're not the only show that's on this network. Both these networks. We got several other shows here if you want to check them out. I'm actually going to be on another show later tonight at around 7 o'clock my time called Supernatural Talk. If you'd like to tune in.
I must admit, see this man, honestly, I thought I was a machine until I
He was
met
on
Nick.
like 40 shows.
I do 5 shows a week.
I used to do 3, and it was a lot.
It's a lot of shows, but you know what? I don't know how, but I'm able to handle it.
She says yes, please.
All right, consider it done, Kelly. What's this here? It says a paranormal investigator should always have power. Yeah.
I suppose. Chanel, I
Chanel,
shared
sure.
it.
Thanks, Chanel.
Thanks, Chanel. Do appreciate it. But yeah, what we doing next week, guys? In fact, I know what we're doing next week. We are doing, because I promised Nick we were going to come back to it, the Davlo Pass.
Yes, yeah. I remember that. I remember we talked about that. We had that as an idea. That's something I definitely wanted to talk about.
Definitely. And what I would really love for you guys in the comments to do is put ideas for shows, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, well, on Simply Spooky, you get a jar of doom. On our show in Frighteners, I'm going to start a cauldron of ideas. So every Thursday, Friday, I'm just going to stick them all in together, to be fair, all the ideas. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to create that. So then obviously we can have thingy. Because see, when you're trying to come up for ideas of shows, you're just like got so many in your head, you don't actually know where to start.
I know. I know the feeling all too well. And also, if you remember too, Lois, is that at some point we were going to kind of do like a crossover in some way with my show. And here, I'll even tell Kelly this since she's been watching. Kelly, I also, in addition to this show and the show later tonight, I also have my own show that I do, which I have on Wednesdays. It's the name of it is basically what's behind me called the Nick Files, where I do presentations on different paranormal, haunted, historical locations. But we're going to start expanding. I'm going to start expanding more to just, haunted locations. I'm going to start expanding to ufology, cryptozoology, even serial killers. So, and we've all been talking about possibly wanting to do like a crossover between 2 shows where I present one of these presentations and have Lois and Rosie on so we can talk more about. We probably may not get through the entire slideshow, but we probably would have a few parts out of it.
If we keep talking, but honestly, me, Nick, and Rosie have this aura. So do me, Dan, and Viv. If we keep talking, we'll be here by the morning.
I like what she just said.
And I saw Chanel had a question for me. I'm just grabbing this out right now.
Did you still collect rocks and crystals?
I still collect rocks and crystals. I do have a few, actually.
I have a ton. I have too many. I need to sell them.
While you're looking for them, I'll read Kelly's comment. What annoys me is how much stuff people miss when doing ghost hunts. My suggestion is putting a cam in front of the body and on your back. I get sick of the amount of times they miss stuff, and this is a simple solution, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree.
I've thought about that many times.
While Nick's trying to find these crystals and rocks.
Yeah, I got
it. All right,
I'll let you. Some right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the soul layout so that way everybody can see it. Yeah, so Chanel, if this answers your question, hang on a second. Got quite a few of them. Sorry with the green screen, but I got a few. But I haven't really collected any new ones since then.
Is that an onyx in the back or mold? Is it?
I'm still learning
the black one is tourmaline.
I'm still
or
basically
onyx.
learning when it comes to crystals
And
and rocks.
amethyst, I
You've
see,
got
and red jasper,
of
Yeah,
smoky quartz.
opposite.
I need education when it comes to
Yeah, I know a
crystals and
lot
rocks.
about
So
crystals. I was
if any of
raised
you guys can
educated on
eventually,
crystals.
either of you guys can help me out, kind of teach me some stuff when it comes to crystals and
Yeah.
rocks, please, because I'm more than happy to
I bet
learn.
if you just posted a photo of those on your page, that you'd have your answer that day, what all of them were and what they're good for and stuff.
Yeah.
Do
Well,
you know?
I
I call Nick my wise owl. When everything I need to know, I just go to Nick.
Mm-hmm.
He's my walking, talking encyclopedia.
that's why they call me Nicopedia for a good reason. My favorite haunted place is in West Virginia. Chanel, I wonder which location that is in West Virginia, because my favorite place undoubtedly is Point Pleasant.
Kelly, I absolutely agree to that. I've been telling people that forever. Oh, that's what takes me back to what I was saying. I lose my train of thought and then it comes back to me. This Saturday, guys, this is my first investigation in a year.
That's awesome.
I'm investigating. I'm back out on the road. So I'm thinking, I'll tell you what I'm thinking offline. There's a book that you can buy in Rocks and Crystals.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
several books I have.
Yeah,
Actually.
it's surprising. It's like I know so much in the paranormal field, but crystals and rocks. So, but I'm starting to get there. Let's see here. Any of you found hard proof?
I
Must be talking
have,
about when it comes to investigations.
I must admit, I have a few times. I've been at locations and I've got good results, and I have found hard proof. And I always, Kelly, as an investigator, I like to use logic before presuming it's like paranormal. I like to see if there's temperatures, make sure there's no wiring, etc. That's what I do. Have you heard of the guy called The Shape? He's a
I
really
don't
good.
know. That sounds
I don't
familiar.
think so. See, I'm just going to say this quickly. When it comes to proof, I do have video of something that I'm even trying to debunk myself just to make sure that this wasn't like genuine, at least not yet. But from what I've been told by several others, they say it's pretty genuine. It was actually ironically enough, at Crown Point Jail about almost 2 years ago. So if it's true, I may have captured my very first piece of evidence on video. Chanel says she still has some. She started her own business selling and teaching.
Ah, that sounds good. That
Have
sounds good.
some books.
Have you put that up online, the proof? Right, I'm going to be brutally honest here, Kelly, right? As an investigator, I prefer to keep my stuff offline because I'll tell you why. There's so
Multiple
many
reasons.
groups, there's so many groups out there that you could put the most up to up in your face evidence
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is good enough because they sit there and say, oh, this is not it, and blah, 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 and they start slagging you, Kelly. So, no, I don't put any of my work up because of that, just purely down to that reason, because you could have the best evidence in the world to show people and they'll never believe
Mm-hmm.
you.
And that's
And
not the
that's
reason that I do it. I don't do it because I need to prove to everybody anything. I do it because of my own quest for the proof, my own quest for the affirmation, my own quest for the answers.
and it's the same thing with me. It's like, and I do it because I also enjoy it. So, and
Yeah.
I've always had a lot of people come up saying, no, you didn't really. If you captured this on video or photograph, I could debunk it really quickly. But here's the reality: even if you don't have any of that evidence, you just tell people that you saw it, you're still going to have people who are not going to believe you. So, or if you have it, it's not going to change anyone's mind. They're going to still probably debunk it in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not saying, of course, like everything out there is not paranormal. It's just certain things that some people just won't accept it either in any way.
And why I'm going to tell you all right now, right, for a subject please don't put orbs, because there's not in a million years would I ever discuss orbs, because it causes the biggest arguments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
I've had some
paranormal
pretty
and
like controversial conversations on investigations about orbs.
See if you want to start. See if you want to start an argument in the paranormal. Talk about orbs, because oh man, they all go about it. Honestly,
That
it's
is just that's like the main argument more than anything else in the field. I mean, like I've always had those arguments too, but I just keep it plain and simple when it comes to orbs. Like if you actually like the only way that I ever see them like as real orbs is if you actually see them with the human eye than in photographs, because at least you actually saw it.
I
orbs,
think that if they
honestly.
have intelligent movement, then I think that it can be
That
also.
too, yes.
Like if you can tell that there's not any way that it moves, a piece of dust does not have intelligent life.
Yeah,
It's
it would
not
just go like
intelligent.
this almost basically.
Yeah, but if it moves like, okay, I always explain like this: if there's like a track, like a train track, like a little toy train, and it was to go like this, you know what I mean? And it has all of these movements and stuff, like a ghost floating with your naked eye, but it's an orb. Then that to me is an orb.
I'm just gonna throw one example out that I think is genuine with orbs. It's actually a sad video, but it's incredible what they captured. It was I don't know if you guys ever saw it. Was a guy who was with his sick and dying dad.
Yeah.
His dad looked like he was probably in his 80s. They were in a hospital room. They had it filmed with a night vision camera. And soon at the moment where apparently he passed away, you see this orb exiting his body and then making this like move towards him, and then it continues to move straight up. Now, to me, that can't be an insect. I mean, that to me was one of the few pieces of evidence.
But you would still probably have someone that would say it was.
Yeah, and he would have. I don't think he wasn't an investigator, so I don't think he was intentionally trying to capture something. They were just filming the last few moments of his life.
Yeah,
that's why, ideally, I'm not saying that I don't believe there's orbs. I do, but I think it's a very far in between sort of thing. And
it's very easy to mistake other things as an orb, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's too controversial.
Oh God, it's oh.
Kelly's got a point here.
But that's like, even on this show, not everybody's going to agree with you. I like that you all do it because of your passion. Thanks very much, Kelly. It really does. It means a lot. I don't need proof. I know I've experienced, and I don't need the others to believe me. Fair play, Chantel.
That's what
they wear blinkers and they're closed off.
Yeah.
No, they're talking about the orbs, and it's talking about the orbs. Chanel, when I pass, I have three people try to see before I leave this reality.
There was actually a joke. I got to bring this up when it comes to orbs. I don't know if you guys saw the video when Ernie Pack had made an update about Save Waverly, right? Did you guys see that video or?
Which update? Like recently?
It was just it was like, I think it was Sunday, but at one point there was some talk about orbs in the video, and somebody said, I can't remember who it was, saying, well, if you put the word orbs backwards, it's bro.
Yeah, it is, bro.
I must admit, I never thought
the orbs
that
are
until you brought it up. Oh my God,
bro! This is what you would probably say if you saw one and you hadn't ever seen one. You'd probably be like, bro. You just
I had to bring that up.
You know, this is a tip for everybody, right? See if you get really shit bored with some investigators, just start talking about orbs and walk away while they're having an argument about the orb situation. Gets you away quicker. Just like, hey bro, what about the orbs? You know? But guys, I'm going to wrap it up here tonight. Oh, in fact, sorry, Nick's got his wee thing to tell us.
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody on for supernatural talk tonight. I think it's just going to be an open mic chat. And actually, there is one thing I also want to point out for Kelly, because I forgot to mention this to her too. And I'm speaking on more of your behalf now, Rosie, because I mentioned 2 networks also. Kelly, if you like to check out, Rosie also has a network of her own, which
I was like,
maybe you should just explain it. I just wanted to introduce
the Temple of Phoenix Network. It's a yellow emblem, and it has a phoenix rising on it.
I'll
Temple of
send,
Phoenix.
as usual, I'll send the links since I'm part of that too. So we got quite a couple of networks, and also too, I just want to put this out for Kelly too, in case she wants to check this out. I also do several audiobook stories that I'm currently in the process of putting a new project together. I'm just getting an audio series together. It's part of a page. It's not a network, but it's a page that I have that's called Scary Stories Presented in the Dark, which is based off of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. There have been many tribute books that have been released. I recorded a couple of them. I'm in the process of making a new one, and we're going to be making 2 more, which I'm hoping to include these 2 once again in the next series. So, and Tom's still on. Yes, Tom, it's coming. What I can tell you guys right now is on the current update on the project I'm doing, which is a book called At the Cemetery Gates Volume 1. I should have brought the book with me, actually, just so everyone knows which book it is. I'm already on story number 6. Once I get to number 7, I'll be halfway through. So, new audio series is coming.
I'm still here, guys, by the way. I'm still listening. I'm just grabbing the medication box because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, oh my God, I should be taking my medication in it.
Well, I'm pretty much done. That's all I just wanted to say.
No, there was something else you wanted. There was something about, was it somebody that got misjustice?
Oh,
you said you would say it at the end of the show. It was a guy that got misjustice.
Oh, yeah. There was, okay, hang on, because I wasn't, okay, I got to re-look it up then, because I just got rid of the links because I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about it.
Sorry, honey.
It's fine.
What?
There was a case that, you know what, the guy that was responsible for this ended up going to the same prison for a short while, and as John Wayne Gacy did. This was a primary example of like one of these accusations where they were pushing someone to confess to a murder that to this day, again, we still don't know exactly.
It wasn't Robert Geist or whatever, was it?
No, it was someone else. It was involving, and not to get too graphic, it was actually involving a brutal rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl that occurred here in Illinois in the town of Canton. Mm-hmm. And from what I can remember is, I'm going to try to keep it real short as much as I could. It was, hang on a second to see.
You know what time frame it was? Like what years?
Yes. So it was November of 1955. Her name was Janice Elizabeth May. I'm looking for the picture of her right now. I just had a really good picture of her. Let me see if I can find. I know they had a Facebook page of it, so I may just have to look at it through. Okay, yes, I do. So I have the photo right here. So it was November of 1955. 8-year-old Janice Elizabeth May went missing from her house, and here is an actual photo of her that I found. Can you guys see it?
Oh.
Yeah. Now her 2 parents went looking for her. The family dog led them to the railroad tracks. Next to the railroad tracks was like a whole collection of abandoned mining cars. Mm-hmm. And one of the brothers then found their sister shoved underneath one of the cars unconscious. And they said the reports was...
I see the picture now. Sorry, I was taking medication. I couldn't get one down there.
What was found under the cars, shoved under
there? They found their sister shoved underneath one of the cars unconscious. And she had a terrible skull fracture on the right side of her face. There was a concrete block seen next to her that had blood on it. She was half nude. So it was determined she had been sexually assaulted, and she sadly died an hour later after arriving at the hospital. So the question is, were there any police? In fact, this case, before I continue, it was even featured on an episode of Dead Files, in fact, because Steve DeShavi was covering, haunted house case, and this murder came up. So I learned a lot from this episode, but also from what I found online. So now the police obviously interviewed several different suspects, but ultimately they focused on this guy by the name of Lloyd Eldon Miller Jr., local taxi cab driver. This is a newspaper article I found of him. I couldn't find really a picture of just him, so this is the best I could come up with. So give me 1 second here.
This is supposed to be the killer?
This is supposed to be the killer, apparently. So,
sorry, I'm pulling the faces, guys. I was trying to swallow my medication, and one of them
like you're trying to use the potty.
Yeah, you're
trying to use the bathroom.
Aye,
So
I'm constipated.
Yeah.
So they ended up finding this guy by the name of Lloyd Eldon Miller Jr., a local taxi cab driver. If you guys can see it now, I know it's a little bit dark, but this
He
is
looks like
supposed to
Tom
be
Hanks. He's so handsome.
kind of does a little bit, but it came out that right after this crime, he quickly fled town, and they found Lloyd
Wow.
Miller about a town 150 miles from Canton. He was at a bus station trying to get a bus ticket to go to Detroit. So they brought him in for questioning, and Miller denied involvement. But after several cases, after several hours of interrogation, he ultimately confessed.
Well,
They
why don't we do that one night? Why don't we look at people that have been wrongly accused?
in some way, I mean, there's not
Yeah.
really too much to really cover for this story. I just thought I'd just give, but yeah,
But just
it's a great
generally
idea.
people that have been wrongly accused or acquitted.
Yeah, it's a great idea for other cases. It's just this
Yeah.
one, there's not very much of a long story to really
Yeah.
talk about in this case, but
Mhm.
I just thought I'd bring it up. But what happened in this case was that, again, I'm trying to keep it real short because there's not really too much to really talk about this case. It was just a case that I was not fascinated by, but it was, in fact, when we went to Joliet prison, he was serving time there for part of his what was supposed to be a sentence. They said that see, again, it's been a long time since I've looked into this story, so you guys will have to remind me. Just gonna excuse me if my mind's starting to kind of go a little bit off course. I'm trying to get it all back in. So
Nick, you're literally a walking, talking encyclopedia.
Just
So it's kind
center
of
yourself. Meditate for a second.
Do you know, I can imagine these wee guys running about Nick's head, going to the cabinet file and pulling it out and trying to scroll through it one. I say all fair respect to you, Nick. Honestly, I don't know how you remember half the stuff. I'm just like mind blown by you.
it actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you guys this right now that some of this other info just came back. So I appreciate what you just said, Lois. It just came back to me, in fact. So from what I can remember, sorry, what were you going to say?
I says I must have a good effect then if I can bring it
I
back.
think you did because I just got it back somehow. But I was just thinking, like, with this whole conviction that this guy went through, people are wondering, like, I was trying to figure out, what exactly, who was Lloyd Eldon Miller Jr. to begin with before this apparent murder occurred. From what I read was that at this time he was 29 years old, so same age as me. Miller completed the first years of high school, but then he was drafted in the military, served in Italy during World War II. After he was discharged, he came back to the States. And his dream job originally, he was going to be an auto mechanic in Detroit, but he hopped around job to job. He ultimately joined the Coast Guard, also the Army, but he went AWOL 3 separate times. He got sent to the stockade each time. He also got in trouble in California in his early 20s. It turned out he and a friend that stolen a car. So he ended up spending 7 months at a prison farm. So you guys can get the idea that
Who's this person that you're talking about?
Lloyd Eldon Miller Jr. That was the
It
newspaper.
sounds a lot like Dahmer's background.
Almost similarly, but
Very.
you can kind of see this guy was pretty much already all over the map, and it was just it was somewhat unpredictable and repulsive. Even more stranger, he got married 4 times, and a couple of these marriages were that woman he only had met for the past few days, which, whether you were living back then or now, people would be like, who the hell does something like that? So he was quite a bit of a whack job in his days.
A wild card?
Yeah.
Definitely a wild card.
Now, going back to the murder, how the trial went for him was that the jury convicted him and the judge sentenced him to death by the electric chair at Statesville Prison in 1956. He had 7 different execution dates, but he ended up serving at Joliet State Prison to await his execution. Now, in 1963, he tried to ask for a state repeal, claiming that he was wrongfully convicted, falsely accused, and had no connection to the murder whatsoever, but the state turned it down and denied it. Now,
so this was only for the murder of one count?
Of one count of Janice Elizabeth May from 1955. But now, eventually, it turns out that the prosecution messed up some of the evidence. So the state basically started throwing out these 10 years of appeal and started cracking down on the state's case. The supposed confession that Miller wrote, he never read it. It was written by the police officer. So I'm trying to
Well,
find.
that's a bunch of BS. They probably shouldn't have done that because they probably, when they do that, they actually hurt themselves and then they get the case thrown out and the person walks scot free.
Yeah, I know.
But do you not
It's
think
crazy.
it's Sod's law? Because, like, the ones that should be in prison escape, but yet the ones that who haven't done it get a heavier sentence.
I'm going to show one more picture. This
I
is
don't know. I
actually
think it
more.
depends on the circumstance, the
Yeah,
place, the time, and the person.
I'm going to show one more newspaper article because this kind of goes along with what I'm talking about. So, what happened in the end in this situation was, hang on one second. In sorry. See, I hope I'm getting the right. I got like a few Facebook links up, so I just want to make sure. Okay, yeah, this is it. So in January of 1967, the state decided to overturn the conviction, and in March, Miller walks out of death row a free man. And a few years later, in 1971, all charges of the murder against him were dropped.
So that's good.
Yeah, now there's not very much about what happened to him afterwards, but what I did manage to find was that he moved to Mexico. He got remarried again. He ultimately wrote a book about his ordeals here back in 1994. He ultimately became a minister, and for a while I was unable to really find an actual because for a while I couldn't find a death date, and that got me really curious of wondering, say, do we know if this guy could possibly, still be alive today? But after finding out whatever else I could find about him, it turns out, no, he's not. He died 10 years ago in 2013 in Reading, Pennsylvania at the age of 86. And I checked to see, cops, back then were able to look into this case again, never question anyone else. Unfortunately, not as far as we can tell. So to this day, it's still an open case, still an unsolved murder.
The good thing about this show, guys, is that we're looking at everything. Because Nick's gave me the inspiration. Because I feel sometimes we go on one subject, but like Nick, I want to open up the avenues. So it's not just about true crime, it's about, the unsolved, it's about just basically everything, really. Definitely. See, Nicky's just my inspiration to things.
I couldn't help but notice when I was telling you guys this, the viewership definitely went up. So that really shows a lot of people were fascinated by this.
Oh, I'm really glad. I mean, as I said, I couldn't date without you two, and I couldn't date without the viewers, honestly.
Eric, just so you know, I mean, when it comes to the Nick Files, I actually haven't done an episode lately because I've been heavily focused on trying to get this audio project done, but also my room / office, which is like the studio for me to produce my slideshows. It's really a mess right now. We're basically cleaning the entire room from scratch. So as soon as
sorry,
yeah,
Nick,
I was just going to
Where
say,
do you
Eric,
post it at that he could find it?
He means previous episodes. Okay. Eric, you could find them on the Things Network chat. I mean, I'm starting to air it now also on Simply Spooky, and it's also on Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment, among a few other networks, but you could just look at things at one of those three networks I mentioned. But I will be bringing back Nick Files hopefully next week. Again, we're getting the entire room.
If you just scroll down, you'll see it eventually. If he hasn't done it in a few weeks, there should be a thing at the top, depending on what device you're on, that has episodes. You can either scroll up, like if you go to posts or whatever episodes, you can scroll through them until you see Nick's face. When you see Nick's face, you'll know that it's him. So
the last case that I just covered was the true story behind The Conjuring, or the Harrisville haunting, or the Harrisville haunting, I've spoken with, because again, I've met with Andrea Perrin. I saw her at Parasite Con last year. I think she's going to be back this year in Ohio, and she's always referred to it as the Harrisville haunting. So I'm always keeping it to her true word. I don't use The Conjuring very often as Harrisville, because that's the real.
That's her franchise.
That's her franchise. That's the true name.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, tomorrow night, guys, join us on Frighteners. tomorrow night, what are we talking about? We didn't actually do a subject, or did we? I would need to look back.
We were talking about. We did have an idea for the Frighteners tomorrow. I just can't remember what it was.
That's what it was. Dreams.
Dreams. That's the one. Yes. Yeah.
Dreams.
Our
Do you know what?
dreams.
Do you know what, guys? Please forgive me because I've got so many shows with so many topics to remember. My brain just goes clunk. So yes, on Frighteners tomorrow night, guys, we are talking about dreams. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be joined with Vivian and Dan. If not, you'll have me, Bri, Ian, and Nikki in. You,
Yeah, you know I'm in. I'm always.
my boy's in here.
Oh, look at this, Kelly here.
It's 9:30 in Australia, so what time tomorrow for people here? Oh, Kelly. Oh, this is one of the ones. Nick, help me out because I've no idea with time zones.
See, this is when it comes to the Nick files. I don't know if you guys have seen. Well, no, you guys probably saw it last night when I sent the logo. I have all the different time zones, not just for the United States, but also other countries areas. So, I mean, so where I don't know exactly which area of Australia Kelly lives in, but depending which, I know they're called states.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Kelly. What to do is, if you don't mind, with your permission, tomorrow night before I'm ready to go live at 8 o'clock, I'll send you the link for the show, obviously for it starting, so that way you can watch it at your leisure. But don't ever worry, right? I want to say this and emphasize this, right? Because there's a certain someone that I'm not going to mention any names that always apologizes for not being able to watch the shows in time. The shows are always there, guys, regardless. We all understand that you've got other things in life to be getting on with. So the shows are always there, guys. So don't worry about missing a show because at the end of the day, we appreciate your support. So
you can always go back and replay it.
You can always replay it
and walk back, definitely.
And we're also on a couple of different platforms now. We're not just on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. I think we're going to be on Rumble soon. We were on Vimeo at one point, but unfortunately that wasn't really working out. But we're also on a few other platforms. So you don't always have to be on Facebook to check them out. And also I realized Kelly, NSW, that's New South Wales. So that's one of the states of Australia. I think I know exactly which time zone it is that she's in. But either way, once I figure it out, I mean, once we're on, I'll figure out what time it is out in New South Wales. So, and yes, Kelly, hang on one second. Yes, Kelly, thanks so much for tuning in. So we really appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch.
I'm glad that you liked us and you didn't find us fucking boring.
Yeah, we're 6 hours ahead of the UK, 6 hours ahead of us.
Aye, definitely. But you guys take care. Is there any last words my darlings want to say?
Keep it creepy.
We got to come up with some type of, ending quote like some of these other shows. Like with Jeremy and like 13th Dimension, we always say if it's paranormal, we got it covered. We got to come up with something.
Don't dig too many graves. Don't dig too many graves. Don't dig too many graves up. We'll see you next week. No.
I wish I could say stay spooky, but stay spooky, but that show Paranormal Mysteries that used to be on our network, that's their line. So I keep that one out.
I've always said keep it creepy. I don't know if anybody else says that or not, but hey.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Keep it creepy.
That might be an idea.
Definitely.
Take care, Nat.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
You guys all have a great night.
Bye.